Yo, what's good, Vibers? In this video, we're going to take a detailed look at the patch notes that hit yesterday on December 18th. I made a different video yesterday, sort of highlighting what I think are was sort of the most important thing happening for this patch, as well as the most important future looking stuff, which is basically the Resurgence and the new hunters. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at some of these other changes that have happened. And having played on this patch yesterday quite a bit myself, as well as shoutcasting some legend rank scrims last night with Mad Magical, I have a bit more context about what's going on here with some of these changes. And so basically I wanted to give you guys sort of a detailed version and make sure everyone's kind of aware of exactly what's going on with the patch that just hit. And I want to quickly shout out DinDin, who made this like really nice sort of like application over the top of the patch notes to make it like much cleaner and much more readable, and it looks like super legit, right? So if you want to view your patch notes through this lens, I'm going to link this in the video description. But DinDin shared this in the community Discord, so if you're in the SUPERVIVE Discord in community promo, they would likely share another one. And they also said I could use it to this video, so shout out to DinDin for this like really clean sort of format we're about to go through. All right, so this is basically the second patch for the Cosmic Winter Jubilee that's happening, and it's basically the last patch that's going to happen until January 8th, which is when they're planning, I think, their big sort of content patch for January. So while the devs get some sleep and get to hang out with friends and family after cooking for like the last 3 years straight, we're going to get to play around with quite a few new things over the next couple weeks. And keep in mind, Theorycraft is basically still like live testing sort of like the beta of this game. Like it's still in beta, everything's very new, and they're constantly trying to innovate and make the game better. So be sure to share any feedback that you feel of these changes, positive or negative, with them in the SUPERVIVE Discord. All right, they made this like patch highlights overview video, which is actually really good. I'll also link this in the description. So if you want to check this out, I highly recommend it. It's just like their fireside chat where Jess Nam, the executive producer, is talking through some changes. Like these are really cool videos, like very enlightening. So I highly encourage you to check that out after this if you haven't seen it. This section actually I want to talk about right at the beginning because there's just like a lot of juicy stuff here they're offering that's kind of like free or just value. So there's this little like pop out easy reference guide they made on the Steam page. And this is like basically what's for free to earn in SUPERVIVE right now. And so they added this Hunter Mastery Pass. So basically this is going to let you, in game, you're going to have total up all the mastery levels across all the hunters that you have. And all those are going to basically count towards this Mastery Pass, which I believe has like 25 levels total. And there's extra of the Vive points available in this new mastery point. So basically like the free currency that you can earn through hunter progression, they're adding more of it through this pass along with like some cool titles and stuff like that. And then they also added a level 6 of mastery to each hunter, which when you unlock it grants 150 of these Vive points, the in-game currency. So basically like between these two things, there's much more of these Vive points that are like earnable for free through in-game progression. And then they added everything together in the store all at once, like without a rotation, and they added more stuff that's available for the Vive points. So it's basically like they added a pass for you to be able to unlock more Vive points through hunter progression, and then they added another level to all the hunters progression where you can get even more Vive points, a pretty big chunk, 150. You know, I think like that new glider board is like 200 VP to give you an idea of like how much this is. And then they added things like that new glider, the hoverboard, like to the in-game shop to basically give you like more ways, more cool things to spend the Vive points on. So I literally just show you guys real quick. So it's right here, over here, this mastery pass. If we click it, it's basically going to total up the mastery you have across all your hunters. So if you look at your hunters, like this is like the level you have on them, right? Like so on Myth I have 4, and if I click on her, and it's like a little hidden, but up here under Mastery, we can basically see the levels, and these are like, you know, the titles you get and like the challenges. And so they added this 6th level where you can get these Vive points, which are these guys up here. So Theorycraft coins are like the ones you buy for USD, and these are like the in-game ones, and I think there's like a conversion you can do here if you want to actually buy Vive points, but Vive points are basically the earnable ones. And so now you can get 150 here through the Hunter Mastery, but we can also get some through the Mastery Pass they added, and these are basically the rewards. It's these different chunks of EP right here, and then we have these titles: Real One, Lovable, Comrade, Chief, and Pass Maxer. But then there's a legendary Wisp, this Jubilee guy. So I'd probably say this is like one of the, you know, peak if you want to roll around on a snowball with this guy when you're dead. This would be like the way to do it. But yeah, so basically if you have like 25 mastery levels total, you can unlock up to here. And it's actually like, you know, it just takes like some playing different hunters. It's actually not too hard to do, to be honest. I had it basically like fully unlocked when it opened. But then in the store they added basically everything all at once. So you have like all the cosmetics together without a rotation here. And that you can see at the bottom, they see how all these ones are like Theorycraft coins, these like premium skins. They added a bunch more that are available for just like the Vive points. So I believe these two I bought with Vive points, and then the Celeste skin is available for Vive points. And then we have a bunch of like cool utility stuff. So Dark Order Glider, Angelic Force Glider. These are like 200 Vive points, 200 on the Oni like hoverboard glider, and then like, you know, 120 for these different wisps like Goldie and Boots and Chip the Jello Cube, whatever he is. 100 for like this pretty cool rabbit, and then emotes. So these are like the ones I've bought like a good chunk of these because these are some of the old emotes that I love. Like this is a classic.
That's a good nuke. That's a good nuke. That's a good nuke.
This is strategic. This is strategic.
What the hell killed me?
These are like some of the oldest ones that have been in the game for a while that I've been waiting for them to add back. So these, like some of these classic ones are, I'll probably end up picking up most of these.
You deserve that. You deserve that.
Are we playing bots? Are we playing bots?
I'm never gonna surrender, so I don't know if I'll get this one. Like this is one of my favorites actually. But yeah. And then finally on here we have the double refer a friend points thing. So now you're gonna get 10 points instead of 5 points for all the referral stuff, and they also reset the ability to invite people. So all your points stay, but anyone that you've invited so far, you can like invite them again, play with them again, and like double up on the points. Like double dip on stuff that's already existed. So invite new friends, re-invite existing friends that have played, get everyone back into it, and earn your cool cosmetic referral points rewards. So with the doubling, I believe the way it works is if a friend, you know, signs up with your referral code, and then if they play a game, and then if you play a game together, all three of those things are worth 10 points. Normally worth 5, but now doubled to 10. So 10 for signing up, 10 for playing a game, any game, and then 10 for playing a game with you, the person that signed them up or referred them, basically. So 30 points available through each friend, potentially. And so if you get 10 friends where you do this through, that's 300 points. That's 100 more you need for the... I don't have it on. I did have it on. I guess if you switch in practice tool, it doesn't have it. Yeah, this is the 200 reward. So, you know, if you do that with, what, like 7 friends, you can get this, like, blacked out Spec Ops Luna. Pretty cool one, actually. Of the rewards, I think this is the coolest one. A really big thing that's happening yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's basically a 3-day test. They're running like right at the beginning of this update, and they essentially said at the end of Friday they're going to sort of evaluate the feedback that's happened and sort of decide what to do from there. But basically, it's this early game rework, and this is what my previous video was like mainly about, where essentially in the first day and the first night of the game, your team is basically going to have unlimited revives, and instead of having to like get to a beacon, you can basically just spawn right on top of your team with a timer, and it starts off with like a pretty short timer, like 15 seconds, and then I think it maybe adds like 15 seconds every time you die. So if you die a second time, it's like 30 seconds before you come back, and then depending on which teammate you spectate, if you're dead, that's where you like drop back in. And so the whole intent behind this is to basically like try to bridge the gap for new players to actually get into some good spicy combat and realize the sort of magic of SUPERVIVE, because those of us that have played, you know, especially for like more than 100 hours, you really start to feel the magic of the combat, like the true depth of the sandbox. Like there's really so much here, and that's what makes it such a good game and is going to make it, you know, hopefully last for like a really long time. But the problem with that depth, especially for players that like aren't familiar with battle royales, is it can be sort of like very hard to pick up, like very overwhelming, like a lot of stuff going on. So the whole intent of this sort of test they're running over the next 3 days is to see if like that helps new players just like get more combat reps in, get a better feel for the sense of like combat in a BR. And the, you know, if a bunch of teams are fighting early, that's going to encourage like other teams nearby to come because they see the violence. And we have another change that happened where you can now actually see like movement pings or combat pings on your map. And so they're trying to basically like bridge this new player gap a little bit. And one of the ideas to do that is basically like encourage a bunch of like forgiving fighting early game. Like they want you to be able to duke it out, and even if you have a bad drop, they want you to be able to maybe live that. Instead of having like that poverty run, they want to give you a chance to just like come right back in and fight it again, have a bunch of like feel good combat early, man. So I think this is like, it's a bit hard for, if you're an experienced player, it definitely feels a bit weird. And I've heard pretty like mixed feedback at this point from kind of what people are thinking. But I will say, like, from the newer player perspective, like I've heard sort of positive feedback, and from the veteran player perspective, I've heard sort of like negative feedback. And so it's going to be really interesting, and I don't want that to influence your perception of it. So if you haven't tried this yet, like, really good time to just dip back into SUPERVIVE, see how this feels, and give your feedback sometime, today or tomorrow. And then they might, like, if they do change it, they probably aren't going to take the whole thing away. They're probably just going to basically mod it a bit and then see what happens from there. And if even the modded version sucks, like, then they would, remove it or look to something else. But like, this is essentially an ongoing experiment at this point, but we're essentially helping them like live test this stuff and figure it out. So if you do have the opportunity to play, I highly recommend just like giving it a try and seeing what you think. I think it's like really interesting. I also, and especially because I've heard mixed opinions, I sort of have mixed opinions on it myself, where I think it's cool in some ways and I do see the benefit for new players, but I also think it's like, it takes away a bit from the sort of like gravity, the impact of those early kills. And when you look at this combined with the changes they made to the rank system, where like just getting a knock doesn't give you that bonus RP anymore, you have to actually like get a squad finish for those points to like come through and count in the RP, which we'll get to down here. It's basically like it changes the impact of early fights. They don't feel as like, even though there's more fighting and more violence, like veteran players are saying, it doesn't feel as like sort of final or good to get those early kills. But on the flip side of it, I've heard a lot of new players saying like, or like solo queue players saying like, if my team ints with like a bad drop, at least we can like recover quickly without having like, to poverty run across the map to find a beacon to res and then be, finally maybe catch up like day 2. And so the main things I didn't mention about this yet is there's like a timer over your head that shows the respawn that like even enemies can see, and then actual beacons like aren't going to work while this is in effect. So Resurgence, this is called Resurgence, this new early game thing, and it's only going to work, and it's only going to be on day 1 and night 1. At day 2, if anyone in your team is dead, they're going to automatically come back right at the start of day 2, like regardless of the timer. And then going into day 2, it's back to normal rules where you're like using beacons again. And something Magical pointed out when we were casting last night that I thought was actually really interesting is the other benefit to like being able to just auto res over your team is you don't have to use beacons. So basically when day 2 comes, there's more beacons available for you to use because you didn't, sort of burn any of them on day 1 trying to res your team, because they're just auto resing over your head. So not only is it like giving more revives day 1, it's giving like more potential for revives because you kind of have like more beacons up going into day 2. And then sort of like attached to this change is they added this ascending armor thing. So, they're basically saying like they wanted to incentivize fighting along with this change. Sort of the intent we were talking about, getting, people to experience that magic, the combat of SUPERVIVE. And, that part that like once you kind of like get a taste for it, it just feels like so good. They're basically trying to encourage more of that, and this armor change is another thing in that same direction, where they're saying, hey, if you fight more, you actually are going to have the ability to upgrade your armor throughout the game by dealing damage. And I sort of like misinterpreted this yesterday, but now that I've, got some gameplay in and been watching some people play it, it works a bit differently than I thought. So I initially thought it was only going to be active like day 1, night 1. But actually at any point through the game now, you can upgrade your armor through these actions. And I also initially thought these were like signifying like points of damage. Like if you do 5,000 points of damage, you'll upgrade to blue. But this is actually like an independent point system that's calculated off of this thing. So your damage matters. So dealing damage is the first thing that accumulates you points. So it's part of this number. But the other part of this number is knocking enemy hunters and also assisting knocks on enemy hunters. So any assist, any knock, or any like just raw damage you deal is going to accumulate points. And those 3 things basically make up these numbers. And so if you hit 2,000 in this new point system, you're going to upgrade to green. 5,000 you'll upgrade to blue. 15,000 you'll upgrade to gold, like the legendary armor, that there's only like 4 available at the beginning of the game. And then 20,000 points to hit actually a brand new tier of armor that we haven't seen before, red. So basically, in order to get the most damage mitigation available in the game now, you actually have to do these actions. That's sort of the only way to get access to this red armor at the moment. And if you deal enough of these actions and accumulate 20,000 points in total, your armor will ascend up to red through these sort of tiers. And the other important thing to keep in mind is you're not going to gain any durability when it does level up. So like, let's say you're a green, but it's like halfway broken. When you upgrade to blue, if you hit this threshold, it's still going to be halfway broken. It's just going to be blue. So essentially, like we were talking about, sort of attached to the Resurgence changes, this is basically looking to encourage violence and the sort of magic of SUPERVIVE combat, like early and often, to hopefully like drive new player engagement. And again, those two things were like said to be live for just 3 days, and then we're going to see if they keep them or if they like tune them and try them again or something like that. But something else that's like playing into this a bit now are these ranked changes that we're coming down to here. And this is like some pretty interesting changes, actually. So we're pulling up a change we originally planned for our ranked update in January, both in anticipation of the new revival rules, but also because we want to reduce the ranked inflation that comes from especially bloody games. And so previously, in addition to earning rank points for your placement, you also earned rank points for all kills scored during the game. Now, in addition to gaining points for placement, you will earn rank points for final kills or team eliminations. And final kills are defined as if you were the last team to kill a player before their team was eliminated, you gain +3 RP in squads or 4 RP in duos. And then a team elimination is if you kill the last player on a team and knock that team out of the game permanently, thereby eliminating them, you will gain a bonus of +2 RP on top of the final kill score. So if we look at this first part, basically what this is saying is if you kill a team but don't finish them, and then another team like wipes that team, you're basically going to get no credit for, like, let's say you got 3 knocks on that team, finish them, but someone gets away and they res like across the map, and then some other team kills that team. Your squad's not going to get any RP for those kills because you were not the last team to kill the player before they were eliminated. So that team that actually killed them the second time is going to be the ones that get the RP. You guys are actually going to get nothing for that. And so if we think about what that means, basically, if all this resurgence stuff is happening, like legitimately none of these early kills, if people survive by getting auto-res like into day 2, unless you're able to completely finish a squad, any kills you sort of secure during that time are like not going to count toward bonus RP at all. It's only going to be if you get a full wipe and then you basically lock in +3 for every player that was that your team actually killed, right? And if your team does get the knock on that last player, you're also going to get a +2 RP bonus on top of the 3 you got from the knock itself. And then the final kind of caveat is this last bullet. To earn final kill points, your team has to outlast the other. I.e., if your team has 3 kills on an enemy team, your team gets eliminated, and then the enemy team is eliminated, you will not get final kill points. So basically, any kills, because this RP here now is attached to the squad getting eliminated, if your squad gets eliminated before that squad, these also don't count. And so it's really interesting rank changes that I'm not sure how I feel about, because on one hand it's like less RP, so they're trying to stop this like RP inflation from like bloody games, but I do have to say, like, getting RP from kills feels good, and they're basically removing that feeling good. They're saying kills don't matter for ranked points unless you get the squad wipe, and it's almost like a bit like counterintuitive, where getting the squad wipe, like, it's going to encourage teams to like finish teams, like you're now incentivized to like run enemy teams down and absolutely kill them and get them out of the lobby. Because if you don't do that, you're not getting your RP. So if we're talking about like a game mode where we're trying to be like more forgiving and kind of bring people back and have like combat that's more forgiving, especially early on, this rank change is literal opposite of that. It's saying, hey, you, in order to capitalize on any sort of ranked gains, you got to kill these MFers, right? If they're running, you got to end them all. You got to chase them to the end of the map and turn them off. Otherwise, all that effort you spent killing the other three is going to be wasted, useless. You're not going to capitalize on this RP. So on one hand, like these upper changes are like new player friendly. On the other hand, these rank changes are like sort of the opposite, where it's going to encourage especially like higher elo teams to hunt, and they're not going to be, you know, if someone's getting away, whereas before they might just like let them go, like people are gonna chase hard now, especially once people sort of understand fully how this works. Like the new meta is gonna be run people down and eliminate them, and I don't know if that seems sort of counterintuitive to what they're trying to do up here, in my opinion. And I don't, you know, I don't think I'm a fan of these changes. I think it's sort of counter to what they're trying to accomplish with new players. And I also just, you want to do what feels good. And I just sort of outright, the difference between me playing yesterday and the day before, it doesn't feel good not getting rewarded for kills. Like when you get a kill, you want to be rewarded. And this change basically makes it so you're only rewarded for that effort if you full squad wipe them right after that. Because if they res and another team squad wipes them, you know, that team is who's getting the RP because they got the last kills on the players. And so it's sort of weird rank changes, to be completely honest. And I expect these to probably get modded quite a bit. And I'm actually really glad they're testing them now instead of in January, because I think, you know, you want to have like a pretty, as close to like a dialed rank system as you can when you're launching into like season 0 and stuff. Like I think season 0 is coming with all the January content, and so you know, I think like I really encourage you guys to test this out, see how it feels for you, see what you think about it, see if it. The one thing I will say, the case for it is it's all team points, right? Like it's all team oriented, like, you know, instead of it being, as long as it's your team is getting the kill, you're benefiting. You don't have to actually even be there or participate in it. It's literal team kills instead of like personal kills. And so I think that little bonus, however that is calculated, is still, you know, dependent on personal player performance. But like your like huge chunk of RP is going to be dependent on you know, team instead of like individual kills now, which is I would say, you know, maybe a good thing, because that's going to let, you know, right now it's really hard for a support player to get, or in the previous system before this change, it was really hard for a support player to get the same amount of RP as a character that's getting a bunch of damage and kills, because the damage boosts their little bonus and the kills before were each worth like 5 or whatever. And so as a support, if you were like healing or peeling or rezzing and you weren't participating in those kills, like you were sort of losing out on that RP. And so this is going to like, you know, help, you know, encourage that like team play, I think, which is a good thing. But I think they need to figure out a way to sort of merge the two, where they do that without removing the fact that kills feel good, or encouraging teams to like literal run each other across the map to eliminate them, you know, just so they can lock in their rank points, not for like a grand strategy or to win the game or anything like that, you know. All right, now coming down to system changes, we have stealth nerfs to actual the stealth mechanic, not secret stealthy nerfs. So it's time to start improving playing against stealth, basically is what they're saying. While using stealth can feel deceptive and fun, we're seeing and hearing that stealth warnings are too subtle. By the time you realize someone's unstealthed, it can feel within the range of you're already dead. So what they're doing to sort of account for this is increasing the inner and outer ring detection ranges for stealth. The volume is brought up for enemy stealth sound effects, and more changes are coming in future patches. This is just a first step, but if you didn't know, when an enemy is nearby stealthed in SUPERVIVE, there's basically these rings of detection, and you'll get this sort of like purple, like outer glow. It's sort of hard to notice in the moment, but it's like a ambient purple glow on the outside edge of your screen, as well as like a sound, basically like signifying that someone is nearby stealth. And you're not going to be able to see where they're at, but you're going to know that someone's stealth nearby. So basically, when that happens, any damage dealt can break someone out of stealth. So start like just taking your best guess at where you might think they are, and just start like shooting, like autoing in that direction. And that's basically your best bet to like catch people out of stealth. And so with these changes, at least for right now, that should be a bit easier, like seeing, you know, that they're coming up on you, and then the sound effects like helping you sort of like react to where they're at positionally. And speaking of audio, basically they're saying that audio scouting, like that you'd normally experience in like something like Apex, like a full 3D shooter, may not be as reliable in a top-down game because you don't have that sort of like 3D environment experience where everything's around you versus kind of looking down on it. And so they're trying to make so like listening for combat around you is like super important in SUPERVIVE, not just combat, but all kinds of sounds that are happening. Vault alarms, res beacons, healing, box resing, eating Vive Brew. Like there's so many like audio cues in game that you can listen for, but that like sort of audio scouting might not be accessible to everyone. And so they're trying to add a way to make that easier. Another change likely intended for new players where now enemy combat actions and loud sounds now show up as pulses on your mini map and mega map. So footsteps don't. So you can still listen for footsteps, but basically anything that you would be able to hear should show up as like pings on the map, but in practice it actually seems much further than that. Like you can actually scout from your map like from pretty far away, and it says they get less accurate the farther they are from your location, but it still lets you know someone's there, which is the main thing you're needing to know. Even if you don't know exactly where they are, like you if you see the pings, you have a pretty good idea of like their general direction and kind of where the action is happening at. And I've also heard a lot of mixed opinions about this, so I would love to see what you guys think after playing this for a couple days and giving your feedback on how, if you think this is a good change, a bad change, like how does it actually feel in practice. I am a big fan of listening personally. I love like audio cue sounds and I love like the skill of listening. And so I think this is like sort of going to make it harder for me because what I try to do through my ears, other people are going to be able to do through the mini map now. But I know a lot of people like listening to music or like, anyone with like hearing problems or anything like that, like don't want to be at a disadvantage. And I think those are fair arguments. And so, this might help put it on an equal playing field, but I think it might be a better step might be to make it the pings only available for stuff you would like actually hear. Because right now it seems like you can see pings out of even your hearing range. So almost like the hearing thing loses value and looking at the map gains value, which kind of like pulls you out of the immersion of the whole thing. So yeah, interesting change here. But this is like Theorycraft's thing, guys. They're constantly tweaking stuff, trying to find stuff that fits, and this is how the game has gotten to where it is. So like, definitely try this one out, see what you think, let them know, and they'll like iterate from there. And then coming down to evil keys, basically they're saying the red keys where you can get the exotic powers through PvPing have been too plentiful. And now that they're doing the resurgence changes, it's going to be even more PvP. And so they're nerfing the drop rate of evil keys, and they're also reducing the maximum numbers of chests that spawn each map, so it's going to be basically harder to target farm those exotic powers. I will say, however, if your team knows what they're doing and they prioritize those objectives, you can still get 4, 5, 6 exotic powers on your team if you're kind of like, playing around those, as we saw like a lot of teams in scrims last night still getting their normal, like massive, exotic power stack. I think I do like this change in general because the exotic powers are extremely powerful and they're meant to be like a bit more niche, and things like double blink dagger on Void or like delicate disguise blink dagger on Kingpin just make them into like absolute monsters of hunters. And so I like that stuff, but I think it should be very hard to acquire and like not a reliable thing that you can just get every match to farm people. And then coming down to Wisps, it says we like that there's some controversial play when someone is down as a Wisp, but we also want to increase the urgency and tension for teammates who are considering rescuing you. So another interesting change, kind of playing into the whole resurgence thing we were talking about earlier, is that now Wisps are half the duration. So the bleed out time is reduced from 30 seconds to 15 seconds. So now you only have half the time to exist as a Wisp before a teammate like stands on you and tries to res you, right? So this is basically going to do almost exactly what they're saying here, where it's going to make like Wisp play like more actionable. Like you need to either go for it or you're not going to be able to like wait around, like go out of the fight, flank all the way around while your homie like rolls south. You're going to have like a little less time to do operations like that with this basically halving of your lifespan as a Wisp. All right, now coming down into our hunter changes, this is like a really nice visual setup again by DinDin, like really clean with like the abilities and the order. And so we're going to try to go through this part pretty quickly because I know I've sort of been monologuing on the other stuff a bit. So the big changes to Void are that the LMB resets faster, which is just his auto. Unempowered shots no longer pierce terrain. Range is increased. Shift cooldown is reduced. Q initial damage is increased. So the initial damage of the bomb is up 10%. The cooldown for swap is down 2 seconds at every level. So instead of 12.99 at levels 1, 2, and 3, it's down to 10.77. So 2 seconds off of every version of swap. And probably the biggest one is like the bloom reset timing on our LMB, and the fact that our unempowered shots don't pierce terrain, but now go further than they did. So our unempowered shot was like shorter. We got a range increase on them, but they no longer pierce terrain. And also the bloom timing is different. And so if we hop over to our boy Void, was I just messing around with earlier? Basically this, like, so like if you spam your LMB, see how it's the little ball? And then if I wait just a second, see how my aim laser goes much longer, and I get that additional range on it. So basically the timing of this bloom is it resets a bit faster now. So if you're a Void player, you want to just like kind of practice and get used to like the new bloom timing, where you're able to like consistently shoot those empowered shots like right when they come out, and it's a little faster than it used to be, basically, as you can see here. And then the other big thing is the unempowered one like no longer pierces, so it's not going to like pillar, but it's got like a longer range on it, so you can like, you know, trade a little bit more reliably with the unempowered ones. But when you're trying to wallbang, you now gotta let it go to the empowered one to get it to pass through. And if you do it too soon, it's just gonna stop. And then coming down to Ghost, LMB unempowered damage increased, spike grenade damage increased. Q now deals explosive damage. So the big thing here is the beam can now be used to like blast destructibles like Oath Shield. So we have like basically a more reliable way to maybe crack through the oppressive Oath, like damage mitigation, especially like late game. If you're getting a bunch of resets by hitting a bunch of railgun shots, you can really crack through some shields now. We have a damage increase on the spike grenade itself, but if we look here,
Meet your end.
the spike grenade, like, it does damage, but it's not like the hugest part of our combo. Like, most of our damage when we hit a grenade is coming from our burst following it. So, and you want to try to hit it off a wall for the increased daze duration if ever possible. But basically, the damage of this grenade went up 20%. But the real burst I'm getting is from unloading after my grenade because of the way you're getting your increased damage to dazed with your glyph rifle. And the big thing that comes into play now with these changes is this unempowered damage is increased by 20%. So basically, our grenade combo is going to be more potent because not only is our grenade going to do a little bit more damage itself, if I dump clip here, the last 20 rounds of the mag are what's increased by 20% here. So unempowered damage means, see how on Ghost, I have this big juicy chunk of my magazine at the top, like the first 10 bullets, let's say. The last 20 bullets are unempowered. See how it changes the visual of my shot too? See how the first part of the clip's this juicy green and then it drops off? This drop-off part, these weaker bullets, that's what's 20% increased here. So the main time you're doing that on Ghost, like usually you want to burst fire, especially if you're just like poking or trading. But the main time you're going to want to dump clip is off of a grenade stun. So if I throw this, hit strike into a wall and I stun her, I'm dumping clip. And that's when you're getting these last 20 in the magazine to come through. And that's going to be increased by 20% now, along with a little bonus to the grenade. So, and also you're going to pop O shields with your railgun. So Ghost, like, nice little buff there that I don't personally think he needed, but we got it. And then coming down to my main myth, we got another damage increase here. And so this was actually a typo at first, but it seems like it's fixed now. Green LMB perfect shot damage increased by 5%. All blue LMB damage increased by 10%. So literally just nice flat damage buffs with myth. So the green arrow it's referring to is the first timing. See this like middle part of your bar right here? If you land it in that, see how it's like a green juicy arrow? So that's increased by 5%. And then blue, what it's referring to is the perfect arrow for the second timing. So this is the first timing in that first little window down here. The blue shot is right when you hit the top of this bar, you let it go. And that's going to be the one that does the destruction damage. But basically now, this blue timing, like the max range one, and we can see it goes way further range than the short run, right? So the short run's here. This is the blue one. The blue one has the 10% increase, so that's going to be especially powerful with the fact that it does do destruction damage, and so also really good for like cracking oath shields and stuff like that. And then coming down to Shiv, this is a really cool thing they've been doing where they've just been trying to sort of up the ante on the level 3 ability upgrades. So like anytime you look at a hunter, see how the bottom left and right of the tooltip are these squares that show level 2 and 3 of the upgrades. They're basically trying to make the level 3 upgrades more compelling. And so they've made some changes with Shiv where now our level 3 RMB, which is the chain bolas here. So this guy, that is now going to combine Malice stacks on all targets hit. So Malice is our passive where every time we shoot something consecutively, it's going to basically add stacks on the same target. So now we can stack Malice on one target. If we hit them and hit another target behind them to get the root on the RMB, it's now going to like basically transfer that Malice, like combine them and put them on both targets. So it'll take, if I had 5 Malice stacks on this person, it'll put 5 Malice stacks on the second person. And the Malice is basically like letting you do more auto damage. So this is going to basically like let you spread the benefit of your auto damage passive to like multiple targets. So you're just like, you know, big chunking. And then another upgrade to Far Step Dagger. Level 3 now refreshes Quick Flip's cooldown on enemy impact, which is actually pretty cool. So our Kick Flip is our big move with Shiv. It's our shift, but it's our empowered shot. And if we hit that empowered shot, it resets the shift cooldown. So it's like the biggest part of Shift's kit is the flip and successfully landing it to get the reset. So now if we get the dagger upgrade, like let's say we cartwheel and we miss, if we do hit our dagger, that's instantly back up. And so it basically like gives you another way to reset your shift cooldown. And especially if you're trying to dagger a lot, you're already going to get cooldown reduction on this dagger itself from hitting terrain, and that's doubled to 50% for hitting enemy hunters. So if you really like the dagger play of Shiv and you're able to like you're trying to hit your daggers consistently on enemy hunters, not only are you getting the dagger cooldown reduction from landing the dagger, every one of those hits gives you like another free shift. And so, you know, just another way to try to like weave more of these, like another method to reset the shift rather than like hitting the empowered shot itself, right? And like especially a good example is if you're using your shift to dodge for whatever reason and you're not going to get that empowered shot, like you can now get a reset off the queue, right? And be right back in your rhythm of having it up. Then coming down to our boy Felix, I'm pretty sad about this one, I'm not going to lie. We're removing some boops on abilities that add a lot of movement corrections where if you have mid to high ping, you'll get hit with the ability and then micro teleport because your client predicted you'd be in one place while the server thinks you're about 2 centimeters off from that, and then it forcibly corrects you. Basically, online netcode dislikes fast, tiny movement disagreements between 2 clients and a server, and so they are trying to make some changes to abilities to like eliminate this issue, it looks like. And one of the abilities that was causing a lot of this is the sort of momentum stop on Felix's Embry Bolt, and so it's no longer going to knock targets back. I don't know if they completely removed the momentum stopping thing, but before with Felix, you can with the RMB, if you like hit someone that's gliding, or like let's say a Jin's like dashing at you or flying at you, if you hit them with this RMB, it'll just completely neutralize their movement, their momentum, and I think that's what's been taken away here. And the same exact thing with like the netcode, like messing stuff up, is happening with Brall. And so it's the same exact stuff copy pasted here. And it's just with his greatsword. So on Brall, if you're swinging your sword, you were getting knockback on your LMB. Now it's basically like they removed that for that same netcode reason. And so now you're just going to get a slash. And depending on how you like to play Brall, like some Brawls might like this because you're trying to really be up on top of people. And the pushback could get a bit like annoying sometimes when you're trying to stay in range, especially if they're trying to run from you. So this might actually be a Brall buff. I'm really not sure, to be honest. And then coming down to some cool power additions that they added as part of the continued like holiday edition. So we have Jelly Cube, which is actually a really cool one, Twister Blast, and Pocket Geyser. And I actually haven't had a chance to really experiment with these ones much. So here's Jelly Cube and Twister Blast. I do like the names. Jelly Cube's really cool. I was watching Adamark stream earlier, and Argus was saying, so it's like a crazy, like, it slows projectiles. Like, look how slow, like, it'll slow down anything that tries to go through it. And then it'll slow movement, and Throw a giant jelly cube that slows hunters and projectiles caught inside. Multiple cubes can merge if cast on top of another, but will decay more quickly. So what you can do if you have multiple people with this is stack them, and you can grow it up to 3 sizes. Where it's just a Mondo cube, and you could use this for all kinds of stuff, but like it's a crazy like momentum stopping like zoning, and it lasts for a pretty long time, like even with the triple stack. So pretty cool in there. Then we have Twister Blast. So after 4 seconds, create a twister that moves forward and blasts enemies up while grounding them. So another grounding tool, that's pretty sweet. So if anyone's trying to like dash away, or if you're trying to like, you know, win a fight over Abyss, grounding can be extremely powerful. So it's basically like a ranged NATO like grounding tool. Oh, Emergency Penguin's super cool. If you haven't seen this one yet, that was the patch before this one. I don't see Pocket Geyser. Launch out a penguin that deals 100 damage and creates ice over Abyss. She also slaps. So you can do this, make terrain, and then you have a little penguin creep that actually does slap. And wait, I also saw Adamark doing this. We'll do it too because it's actually great. Highly recommend Adamark stream if you haven't seen Adamark yet. Long-time playtester, really cool dude. Super chill vibes. So they slap. See? You can actually get.
This'll help.
You know, imagine you have Replicator and your whole team gets Pengus. You could make a Pengu army.
Can't do that.
Could be pretty cool. It is pretty cool. All right, that's all I got for this one, guys. I hope that was useful. Definitely a great time to like hop in and test a bunch of these changes out. So get out in the breach and let Theorycraft know what you're thinking about all the changes, what you like, what you dislike. Pass all that feedback along to them so they can make the game better based off of that. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you. Be sure to take care of yourself and keep vibing. Catch you in the next one. Peace.